So let me introduce Deanna Cortina Rodriguez, and she is LMFT and RPT. Deanna is the Trauma Recovery Center Director at the Trauma Recovery Center at Grady Memorial Hospital, and which is also associated with the Ivy program. So I'm going to let Deanna tell you more about the Trauma Recovery Center and what she does, and then she will um, bring in each of the panelists and let them introduce themselves. You ready?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. While I so wish we could have been together in person, I'm relieved to know that we're all safe and not on the icy roads. Thank you so much, Mitch, for inviting me and for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be in a room filled with such beautiful minds and beautiful souls. I'm really looking forward to today's agenda. And as Mitch mentioned, I'm the director for Grady's Trauma Recovery Center. In just the briefest nutshell, because again, I do want to get more to the panelists. We are a one-stop shop for survivors of violent crimes, offering them free mental health counseling and case management services. So really, our mission is to go from surviving to thriving. And so again, just a pleasure and an honor to be here. And to kick things off with our panel, I do just want to have like a preemptive, I know we're all on mute, but just a preemptive like round of applause for the panelists today, just because as somebody who's in mental health and has also been in mental health services myself, it's not easy to talk about difficult or challenging circumstances that you've faced in your life. And so I just really want to shout out the panelists today for their bravery and being vulnerable enough to share their stories with us today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll kind of just popcorn as I see them on my Hollywood squares for as far as the first round of questions, which is just introducing yourself. So if you wouldn't mind, April, you're my first Hollywood square. So just would you mind please introducing yourself and in a couple, minutes, briefly describing the circumstances of your life around the time of your injury?
Sure. Thank you. I was sitting there thinking, don't call me first. Don't call me first. But I got it. So, good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. My name is April Ross. I am, well, my background is actually as a lawyer. I was a prosecutor for many years. And right now I serve as the executive director for the Georgia Commission on Family Violence. Around the time of my injury, am I there?
Yeah, we still hear you and see you.
Oh, my screen went out. Sorry about that. I see. All right, I'm back. Around the time of my injury, I was actually in a marriage that was not working. I had separated from my husband, and I decided to file for divorce. And around that time, I guess that led to a very volatile period in the relationship. Um, and I guess during that time we were separated, he had begun planning um what he was going to do. So once I filed the divorce, he ambushed me in my car, fired into my car multiple times, shooting me and my passenger. I was left paralyzed from the incident. He later took his own life, and since then I have been kind of on a different journey.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's nice to meet you. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting you yesterday. Thank you so much for being here. All right, next on my Hollywood squares, we've got Shine. Good to see you again, friend. Good morning. You're on mute. There you go.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Same question. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just briefly introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about the circumstances of your life at the time of injury.
My name is Shine. I'm from New Jersey. I'm 46 years old. I'm a victim of a gunshot. I was driving a car in the state of Philadelphia one night, and somebody randomly shot the car up. One of the bullets shattered my spine, hit me in the neck, shattered my spine from the chest down. I had no feeling. This happened 3 years ago. And, that put me in a dark place. I woke up not being able to talk, not being able to walk. So I had to go through that. And that's where I'm at with it now. Hello?
I'm still here. Yeah, I just I'm muted myself to make sure that there was no background noise during your conversation. Thank you, Shine, again, and April for sharing your stories. I really appreciate both of you all being here. And then Mitch, did you want me to have Terry to introduce herself?
But she can, but Terry is going to be on the next panel with parents. So, but while you're here, you might as well say hello since you're right next to your shining, smiling son.
That's it. Good morning, everyone. I'm very, very, very grateful to be on the panel today, and I feel very emotional. I wish we would have been able to meet in person where I could give some good hugs and get some good hugs, because a lot of times it's been my son and I alone, in the house, trying to work this situation out. But I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm always eager to learn what goes on in this community. A lot of what Shine and I have gone through has been trial and error. So to be able to get some education about, and he's educated me tremendously on I call it the world of the handicapped, because it's a whole nother world that I don't think people are really aware of. And I thank God for the advocacy of Dr. Tepper and others like him, bringing awareness to this situation. So I'm just very grateful to be here, to see everyone, and to be able to listen and glean from what you all have to share. And I do want to say that I love my son with everything that is inside of me, and I'm very proud of his fighting spirit, his warrior spirit, and the progress that he's made.
Mhm. Thank you, Terry, for being here. And
And-
as Mitch stated,
and-
just be on the family.
Eddie's here now.
Oh, great.
So let's hear from Eddie. So first, Audrey, our producer, if you could find Eddie Smith and highlight him.
All right. I'm just looking at the participant list. And where is Eddie?
Thought I saw his name pop up. Oh, he's at the top of mine, right underneath Mitch.
Right, Mitch. Let me find him.
Yeah, he's on there under Eddie Smith.
I got him.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Hey,
Thank
Eddie.
How you doing?
Good to
Good
see
morning.
you. Good morning.
Morning.
You are jumping in at the perfect time. We were just introducing ourselves. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about who you are and also to your comfort level of sharing, describing some of the circumstances of your life at the time of your injury.
Yeah. I have a nonprofit called Paralyzed from Violence. I'm also vice president of United Spinal. And at the time of my injury, I think the biggest thing was me worrying about the biggest challenge was my children, like them seeing me like this. When I first came home, I would like stare at them to see if they're looking at me funny. Like I was putting stuff in my head, like they, like they're looking at me like I'm weak. Like that kind of stuff was hard. I would say also, of course, PTSD, going outside at nighttime, can't sleep, any noise, stuff like that. It was being in a car because I got shot in the car. So anytime I would be in the car and like my ex-wife at the time, if she would go to the gas station and I'm just in the car looking and I'm feeling helpless because I'm like, if somebody came on up to the car, I can't even get out. I can't drive. I can't move. I'm just stuck. So those type of things was really, really hard to overcome.
Yeah. And do you mind if I just ask another follow-up question about just the circumstances of your injury?
Oh, okay. I got a T10 spinal cord injury.
Okay. And you were
Complete.
driving, so this was like a random, like you have no idea who shot you or what was the actual event?
No, I don't know who shot me. No.
Yeah.
It was a robbery attempt.
A robbery attempt. And were you alone in the car?
Nope, I was with someone.
My goodness.
He got shot too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you describing just a little bit more about the circumstances of that day. And we are going to get more into some of the challenges that you all are navigating. And so now that everybody's gotten a chance to introduce themselves, as I continue to ask these questions, it's just whomever feels like they'd like to jump in and answer first, but we would love to hear from all of you. So just, whoever wants to take the first tackle. And so the next question that we have is, and Eddie, you started touching on it, so feel free to either share more or highlight more. There's 3 of you, and so we do have a little bit more time for each of you to share about your experiences. And so we're curious just to learn more about the challenges that you all have faced, and that you all faced at the time of your injury and even since, post-injury. So again, to the comfort level that you all have with sharing, would anybody like to comment?
I thought Eddie was gonna go.
So you want me to go?
Yeah, you can pick up where
Can
you
you
started up.
can you say the question again?
Sure, of course. So you were already hitting on a lot of what the question is. So, you mentioned some of the challenges were just, the PTSD that you experienced after being shot. You also mentioned, what it was like for you to see your family members now see you. You mentioned your kids. So we're just curious about the challenges that you all faced. So perhaps maybe even talking about like what the post-injury life was like as far as relearning things or having to learn how to do things differently, if you feel comfortable sharing anything along those lines.
Yeah. The first thing I had to learn to do was what they teach you in therapy is getting off the bed, making sure you get to the chair, and then they had like a rehab part where you go, it's like a gym, and you just transfer, and I just kept falling. Like you have to try to sit up without your hands, and I just kept thinking to myself, like, I'm never gonna be able to do this. I'm never gonna be able to do this. And he would just tell me like it's just the beginning, like you're actually doing better than most people who ever been in here. Stuff like that. Like I think I was supposed to be in the hospital for way longer than I was, and I got out in like 4 weeks. I don't know how. Besides God, like the wound that I had a cut from the top of my chest all the way to the bottom of my stomach, and they were like I had staples, and it couldn't close all the way because it was so inflamed my stomach was. So I had like a wound vac, and I couldn't leave the hospital. And they told me like it wouldn't heal until like May, and I left in March. So that was one of the challenges like learning to transfer, also using the bathroom. That was like a whole both ways. Both ways is like it's the worst because you using a catheter, so you got to stick something inside of you, or like even doing a number 2 is way far left than that. I don't know if people want to hear that, but
Okay, yeah, we're here to listen.
huh?
I said it's okay, we're here to listen. This is important that people really understand like the level of impact that these types of injuries have. So
Yeah, so like with me being so higher up, I don't know, like if you're lower, you probably have more control over your bowels or something like that. But I know for me, like when they first told me what I would have to do is like, take my finger and like go inside, and I just couldn't. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not how people use the bathroom. So it was like that was like the most demoralizing thing you could ever think to do as a man, at least I think in my mind. So I know when I first came home, I couldn't use the bathroom for maybe like weeks because I was so constipated from all the medicine that they were giving me. And then it just all just came out at one time, like just one day at church. It was so embarrassing. And then like after that, it never happened again. But like I could laugh now, but it wasn't funny.
yeah,
Yeah. So the bathroom thing, yeah, it's definitely
yeah, that
top
sounds
of the list.
I can only imagine. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there any other challenges that stand out to you that you feel comfortable sharing? And we can always circle back if something else pops up, because I know sometimes when other people talk, it's like, oh yeah, remember some stuff.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Eddie. And again, it's good to see your face.
Yeah, you too.
April, did you want to go? Because I know you'd unmuted, so I wasn't sure if you.
Oh,
Awesome.
I'm fine to go. Yeah, I don't mind. I sometimes just don't mute back unless I have to.
Gotcha.
For me, it was a lot of the same thing. I mean, definitely, it was not expected. I would never have imagined that my soon to be ex-husband would have done that, even though we were divorcing. He had been my high school sweetheart. We had dated and been involved for almost a decade and a half. So I knew this man and I knew him. I thought I knew him well, but it was a lot to take in, and then understanding, waking up in the hospital, no one told me right away that I was paralyzed. It kind of felt to me like I just had a heavy weight on me and I didn't quite know what was going on. I didn't really understand that I was paralyzed until I got to Shepherd Center and they brought in this, power chair and they're like, we're going to see how this one fits you. And I'm thinking this is temporary. And then finally, the doctors kind of started explaining. But it was a shock, and then you kind of go through this phase where it's like, yeah, I might be paralyzed, but I'm not going to be permanent. I'm going to be that person that, I'm going to just kind of start moving again all of a sudden. And you go through this phase of wanting to believe over and over and over every day that, you're going to start walking again or something's going to start moving that wasn't moving before. And then you got some people in your life that'll keep coming. And I saw this article about this fake surgery that's out in some country I can't even get to, that is, helping people walk again. And and then people still keep sending you stuff and telling you stuff. And you got the people that want to lay hands on you. And it's just a very psychologically mind trip, because at some point I've been injured now for 10 years. But at some point my mind mentally had to pivot away from that. And I realized, it's not that I don't believe that it's possible, but I have to learn to live every day irrespective of whether I'm going to walk again. And I've got to make that the best life I have. So I tell people that I don't really want to hear anything about, some, medicine you done found, a pill you think I can take or whatever it is that you think is going to get me to walk again. I'm going to be okay. And I don't want you praying for me because you see me in a wheelchair. Because just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean something's wrong with me. I'm not cursed. I'm not, and I'm able to live. I did go through a struggle of thinking life was over, thinking I'm kind of stuck in a house being a cripple. My friends hate when I call myself a cripple, but I was like, I'm just a cripple, but I had to realize, if I wanted to do things on my own again, I was only going to be me that made it happen. So I would go to Shepherd Center was such a blessing because being around so many other people that were in wheelchairs and at my same injury level, seeing them doing stuff that I thought I just wasn't gonna ever do again, it just made me start asking questions to my therapist and how do I get to do that and show me how to do this and teach me how, and can I drive, and how do I become a driver, and I didn't give up on that. I just kept bothering until somebody told me how to do it. I remember watching a guy in a wheelchair one day putting on his own gloves. It drove me crazy waiting on somebody to help me put on my gloves because they'd be grabbing the wrong fingers, squeezing them wrong. My fingers hurt because I got nerve pain. And I'm like, I figured out how to do it myself. People always wanted to feed me. And they had to in the beginning. But it was he talked about being demoralized. Everything is demoralizing. The bathroom is definitely a big demoralizing part. I mean, every time I had an accident, I just went out into, went to crying or just wanted to just go hide because you feel like, you're grown. I'm a grown woman. And it's like, it's embarrassing. And you think you still can live, kind of hang with everybody and be normal. And then you have that kind of situation happen. And it's like, shit, so you really do go through a lot of mind struggles and trips, but the more you get independence back, that's kind of when you can come a little bit out of the dark space. Because I definitely went through a dark space. I kept thinking I need to find a way to finish the job because this is no way to live. And my mom, I remember her finally getting really angry at me and screaming, I'd rather have you like this than have you as a picture on the fireplace mantle. And that made me cry because I didn't know she felt like that, and I'm sitting up here worrying about myself and wanting it to be over. But yeah, and I never thought I would see 10 years. I kept saying, I don't want it to last that long. I couldn't imagine growing older like this, but now it's just a matter of day to day. And I mean, the struggles, challenges, pain, 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 all the time, pain. I am in pain. I've been in pain from almost day one, and the pain has never left. So learning to live with chronic pain, struggling to make sure you balance it, how you handle medicine, being, not having the stamina to keep up with my friends, um, kind of giving up on a love life, things like that. So that kind of stuff, yeah, for me were the biggest challenges.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you again sharing so much about your unique experience. And also, I think I saw, Shine and Eddie nodding their heads. So seems like there's a lot of parallel process in what they've also experienced. I was curious, April, do you mind if I ask a follow-up question regarding employment specifically, like how, if at all, did injury impact employment for you?
I was very blessed. I will say that about employment. Like I told you, I didn't realize how serious my injury was when I woke up in Grady. And my boss, who at the time was the DA of Fulton County, Paul Howard, came to the hospital and visited me. And, first thing I asked him was, could I have a raise? And he tells me that story all the time because I'm thinking I'll be back in work in maybe a couple of weeks, and but he was gracious enough as my boss at the time to tell me when I was ready to return to work, just to, let him know that my job would be waiting for me. It took me a year and a half before I went back to work. In hindsight, maybe I needed more time. But I also was struggling again. For me, they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop. It was like, I forced myself to go back to work because I needed to feel like I had some purpose, like I had something to do. And I was at work not doing anything. So they just took me back, and he was very gracious about not, I didn't get piled up with a lot of work. They gave me very little to do. So I was just there every day, but it felt like I was a part of something. And that started giving me a little bit of who I was back. I felt like I used to tell myself, I'm never going to smile again. You'll never see the same smile out of me. The smile will never meet my eyes. You know how they say you can tell when somebody's really smiling because it meets their eyes. I would, laugh and kind of, smile at somebody out of politeness, but I just never felt happy. And it just took little things like getting my life back. The first time I drove by myself in the car was like heaven. Oh my God. I was driving 5, maybe 10 miles an hour because I was scared crazy. But it felt so good to have that piece of independence back. It was just, that was probably the best feeling I can think of since all this has happened.
Eddie's saying amen on the other side. I can see it in his head nods. Yeah, that sounds like, just something again that we all take for granted, but such a victory in the sense of really feeling like you have, as you stated, more of that independence. I appreciate you answering the follow-up, April. And we're gonna pop over to Shine. Shine, thanks for your patience. So again, same question to you, to the comfort level that you have with sharing, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you faced at the time of your injury or even now, whatever you feel comfortable?
Yeah, like they really nailed everything. I'm just gonna like really piggyback off of that, for what Eddie and April said. Um, because those are the two most major challenges is just using the bathroom, the bowel movement part.
Yeah.
Like that's real serious, and like you're bound to have an accident at any point in time. You could be out with your friends, anything, and it just happens. So imagine you in a relationship with a woman and you just starting it and you have an accident out of nowhere. That's embarrassing. So like you have to deal with stuff like that. But to go back to the beginning, I woke up in the hospital in the ICU, not being able to talk, not being able to walk, not tubes all down my throat. And I'm wondering, looking around, like, what's going on? Nobody telling me anything. So first person I see when I come out of my coma is my sister. And this happened in Philadelphia. So my sister flew all the way from Georgia to Philadelphia when she heard what happened. So then a little while later, I'm in ICU. Now, I want to leave out of there now. I want to know why I'm in ICU. Nobody's telling me nothing. I want to get up. I want to leave. So as I'm writing down, I can't talk. So I'm writing stuff down on paper to people. I'm telling the nurse that I want to leave. She's telling me that you can't leave, you can't walk. So I'm like, what do you mean I can't walk? Because my mom told the doctors to tell them to tell me not to tell me that don't say I can't walk. That I couldn't handle that. It's already enough on my plate that I'm paralyzed. I mean that whatever it was something like that. But she told them don't tell me I couldn't walk, to let me find out how I find out, because I had enough on my plate because I couldn't talk at the same time. So then I tried to get up and move, and my legs didn't move. And I'm like, damn, why all the doctors and nurses is looking at me through the windows and stuff? So they're watching me. I'm like, damn, why my legs is not moving? So I just started snapping out. Like, that was a drill that put me in a dark place right there. So I'm like, man, and my mom knew the kind of state of mind I have, that I was going to snap like that. That's why she told the doctors not to tell me that I couldn't walk yet. You know what I'm saying? Then once I got past that, I moved down to Georgia to be with my mom so she could help take care of me. They got me in the Shepherd Center. In the Shepherd Center, when they got me in there, they asked me what's my main goal that I wanted to accomplish. And I told them, I want to be able to walk again. I want to be independent. But my main thing is I want to be able to use the bathroom and change myself and use the catheter, all that on my own. I don't want my mom changing my pamper all the time. That's when I was at the point where I was wearing the pamper all the time. She had to come in my room 4 or 5 times a day changing my pamper. Now, being as a grown man, I done been married, I have kids. That's kind of like put you in a dark place. Your mom coming in there, keep doing that to you. I'm like a baby again. You understand? So that was my main issue. So they said, well, for you to do that, you're gonna have to start working on your bowel program and using a catheter. And like Eddie was saying, don't no man like sticking nothing up his butt and his penis, So that took me a couple months just to mentally get past that part. And once I got past that part, things started getting easier for me. Things started getting a lot easier for me. Then I started going to the gym and working out and getting stronger and learning transfers more, and things just started falling in place.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I had the honor of meeting Shine yesterday, and we were chatting more about some of the challenges that you face. And I didn't know if you wanted to comment on them today, but you'd mentioned just also the impact that this injury had on your job, financially. I think you'd even mentioned that you had to sell, that you sold a car as well. Do you feel comfortable sharing about those things?
Yes. Before I got injured, I was a owner of a construction company, a LLC. I was a private contractor. I did bathrooms and kitchens, and I was doing okay with that. But once I got injured, all that went down, fell out. Like, all my workers left me. People stole my tools. Just everything hit the fan. And then I had a couple nice cars at the time, and by me being injured, I didn't think I was going to be able to ever drive a car again. I wasn't. This is the beginning of my injury. So I sold my Mercedes Benz before I moved to Georgia, thinking that I was never going to be able to drive again, but not knowing that Georgia's designed with all highways, you need a car down here. So I came down here, sold the car, and I'm like, damn, so I'm already paralyzed. My mom lives on the top of a mountain. We're the last house on the top of a mountain. So I can't even go out front and chill and get some air or none of that. You know what I mean? Because I'll roll down the mountain on the hill. It's too steep. So then, yeah, so I sold the car, and then that's the process I'm on now, is getting my independence back. I just received a voucher to get my apartment or whatever. So I'm in the process of looking for a place. And then from there, I'm gonna work on my license so I can be able to drive again. So everything's falling in line.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate you commenting on that. And Eddie, I realized I didn't get to ask you the follow-up question, if at all the injury, how it impacted your employment.
Yeah, it impacted it a lot. I had an HVAC license, so I did commercial HVAC. Um, and I made a lot of money. So when I got injured, I had like some accidental insurance that I was paying every week. It was like $7 or something like that. Luckily, I was paying it because while the whole time I was in ICU, they were giving me like $2,000 every week, and I was in the ICU for 5 weeks. So that whole time I was in the hospital, even though I wasn't working, she was still able to pay bills. I think I probably got like $10,000 from that insurance alone, and then workers' comp and all that stuff. So my money was like really like maybe half. It was enough to pay the bills, but that's probably it. Like just just that. And she wasn't working. She was in school at the time.
Yeah.
So the whole reason why I got shot was because she ended up we had a daycare center. Um we had a daycare center, and then I had the HVAC. She ran a daycare center. We were making we were making a nice amount of money, so where we could live like we making a nice amount of money. So it wasn't like we were just like, no, we were living like whatever we were making, that's how we were living, which is not good, because if one person falls, it goes to shambles. Like you'll start panicking, and as a man, you don't have a choice to like be like, oh, we'll figure it out. No, you got to figure it out because you got a family, you're married, you got kids, you got a wife, and like people watching. Like, so you got, in my mind, like that's how I grew up. My mom always like, you got to do what you got to do. My dad always, you got to do what you got to do for your family, stuff like, he would say stuff like that. So, and that's what I've seen throughout
Mhm.
life. Just
Mhm.
all men just, you got to sacrifice, but that's not good to try to like do it, trying to sell drugs or whatever, just because, yeah, you're trying to do something good, but you're doing something bad too. So it's like, it's a trick.
Yeah.
Um, but the devil, he answer prayers too. He might come before God comes. He'll dingle something in front of your face. It look good. So, but definitely it impacted me because I couldn't like, I would have to like climb into ducts and, do stuff. And so I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't go in basements or, in small spaces. I can't do any of that. I also was in school to be a chef. So I had like a month left of school when I got shot. So I had a part-time job as I was working at Chili's in the kitchen. So I was like a assistant kitchen manager in the back, just learning all the stuff that I would need to learn so that when I do graduate, I can just go into whatever position. I'll have like the entry level of what a kitchen is. Um, and so I had those two things going on, and then I couldn't be a chef. Can't be in the kitchen. You're in the way, and you're in a wheelchair, and plates going by. Everybody got knives. You can't. You're in the way. It's a real fast pace. People pushing people. Burnt. You're
Mhm.
getting burnt, cut. So that's also not a conducive place for a wheelchair user. So like, I pretty much had to learn, learn other things and be good at other things, which is a trait of mine. So always was an entrepreneur, always was doing something on the side. So I just really, the gym gave me back all my confidence. I Within a month of getting out of the hospital, I was right at the gym. I wasn't supposed to be. So I just started off with bands. I had a personal trainer, which is one of my friends, and we would just take bands and just do bands. I couldn't even like lean forward or nothing. I had a gait belt on, just just trying to feel like I'm getting back to myself because I was a gym rat. So I go to the gym once or at least once a day, but sometimes twice. So it was easy to get back in the gym once I came home because that was my mentality already. Um, So I know like now, like I know like Jasmine's probably on, and Dr. Randy and Mitch. They all like they'll be like, you at the gym, and I like it's a learned behavior. So I don't want to loop. Like that's the one place I can always go back to when I'm struggling, or
Yeah, safe
if I'm
place.
having a bad day. I
Yeah.
know I know what got me here was that gym. I used to be in a gym for 3-4 hours just to get out the house. And I always went to nice gyms, so it wasn't like it was stuff to do there. So, and then
Yeah.
I ended up taking a personal training position there. I took the test, passed, and then I started working at the YMCA as a personal trainer. So like like the gym was my life. And
Yeah.
then what April said when she first learned how to drive, it was the best thing because I was taking a bus to the gym every morning because I didn't want to bother my wife. Like, hey, can you take me to? Because she was just, we were just with, we weren't in a good space where I just wanted to be bothering her every day. Um, she took it bad, like she took it hard. She was there the whole time, but like once I came home, after like 6 months of her not seeing me walk, like I don't think her brain she didn't snap out of it, and I did. So I was looking at her like, why are you so you more sad than me?
Mhm.
I'm good. Like, I'm good. But she couldn't snap out of it. So going to the gym and getting away from the house was the best thing ever. And the car helped me do that. So like those two things are like, even now I'll just be in my car. Like I'll just get in the car and drive.
Yeah.
Just because I know what it feel like to not. And not being able to like just get out the car and go in the grocery store for a year is it's it's insane. Like to just think like the only time you can go somewhere is if she says yes, you can come with me,
Mhm.
and I'm paying all the bills.
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling ever. That's another time where I could say like it was affecting everything. But yeah.
Yeah. So you really had to pivot and kind of, like you said, learn a whole new set of skills. And just, having to give up, it sounds like, being a chef was something that you really wanted to do. And that you were really quite talented at the HVAC stuff. I'm super glad to hear that you were able to continue with the passion of yours of the gym, shine through you a little buff man there. And also just being able to do the car. One of the last things I wanted to touch on is also issues. We were talking a little bit yesterday about just housing and just accessible housing. So, and April, I saw that thing. So I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but I hope that you do comment. But just the challenges that come with being in a house that may or may not be accessible and what that's like, if anybody feels comfortable commenting.
I can jump in. Housing is kind of a nightmare. Georgia, I don't know if Georgia's it's probably not unique in terms of other states, but for one thing, you realize when you're in a wheelchair just how many houses all have steps just to get in. And even, if you're in a power wheelchair, even just one step, even if it's a ranch house, even just one step is enough to, bar you from having access to your friends. So I can't visit most of my friends, most of my family. I've never been back in most of their houses since this has happened. So I always feel kind of funny that people usually have to come visit me. And I've got friends, sometimes they want to do baby showers or they want to do book club nights and they want to do it at their house. And it's kind of like, oh guys, I'm not going to be able to make it. And, then they feel sorry for me. I initially was at Shepherd Center. Shepherd was, again, tremendously instrumental in everything in terms of our process of understanding, what we needed to take care of. My parents at the time were still living in a house. It's a 2-story house with a basement. So all the bedroom and no bedrooms on the main level. So all bedrooms upstairs, my childhood bedroom, everything. So look, I guess luckily the public attention, the media attention that my case got, really in a way you can it kind of helped because we were able to do some fundraisers and get some support. And even Home Depot, I think somebody from Home Depot saw something and they offered to supply some of the, I guess, flooring that they needed to do. So my parents got an upstairs room modified and they actually put in a lift in the house. That that helped tremendously because now in hindsight, I wish we maybe hadn't have done that so quickly because, you know, again, I didn't know in my mind at that time, I'm thinking I'm just forever going to be a cripple, just sitting in a bedroom, never doing anything. But I eventually wanted my independence back so badly that I wanted to move out and live independently, especially when I heard again somebody tell me, yeah, I live alone. And I knew it was possible. Once I knew it was possible, it was over with. So the first place I moved into, I rented a flat. It's like a condo apartment, but it's all one level. So all one, but it's kind of duplex almost, but it was flat, no steps, perfect space. And it was only about 2 miles from my parents' house. So they were scared, but they were happy that they could get to me if there was anything. I did have to have caregivers, um, to help support me because I mean, even with me learning how to put on clothes and do things, I was not able to do everything by myself. Guys talk about the bathroom being hard, but it's personally, I think a little easier for guys, you know, because they can just whip it out and go, you know, especially with number one, they can still calf easily. But for me as a woman, I'm paralyzed. I can't get my pants down and all that stuff and get back up dressed. So I eventually had a surgery to create a stoma from my belly button to my bladder so I can calf through my belly through my belly, which gave me again more independence because when I initially went back to work and I had to take a caregiver with me everywhere because they had to help me use the bathroom. And even if I had control of my bowels, you know, I was doing a bowel routine, so I was not having those accidents, but I was having I was peeing all over the place. I always had to go. So and I couldn't get calf fast enough, and even with a caregiver. So most of the time, if I didn't catch it before I had to go, it was over with, and my night was over. So you know, I moved out on my own. I stayed there for about a year and a half. Still had my home, my marital home. I sold that home because there was no way it was going to become accessible. It was going to be too expensive. And then I eventually bought my own place. So I'm in my own house now. It's a one-story ranch. It's I've had to have it modified. I don't have the kitchen modified, but I do have my bathroom modified. I found a nonprofit that gave money to people, women in need, and I applied, and I got $10,000 to help me with a bathroom, which was huge because it's nothing more, you know, nothing feels better than being able to get into your own shower. So, you know, getting in the shower and all that stuff. But it's hard to get your house modified, and it's hard to find a house. There's not really a market for houses that are already modified. So that is a huge challenge.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you commenting on that. And I did just have a curiosity, April, do you feel comfortable sharing your current position? Because you stated that you were working at the DA and that they welcomed you back. Is that where you still are?
No. I stayed at the DA's office for a few years. And then I was actually appointed initially. I started doing a lot of work around domestic violence because of my incident. And I got appointed by Governor Nathan Deal to the Commission on Family Violence. And then about a year and a half after that, the executive director of the commission was leaving. And the chairwoman asked me if I would apply for the executive director position. So I left the county DA's office at that point, and I work as the executive director of the commission.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sis. Shine and Eddie, did you all want to comment at all just about housing challenges?
For me, I've been waiting 2 years now for housing. So it's been a lot of challenges, a lot of trials and tribulations, ups and downs. Like, yeah, I've been going through it, but now it's starting to fall in place. So
Yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay. And then Shine, yesterday you mentioned a little bit about a Facebook group. I don't know if you wanted to share
Oh,
more about that.
I created once I got like I felt like all the way strong on my spot, and I'm a mentor now myself. and an advocate. So I created a Facebook page called Georgia SCI Support Group. And that's for anybody really with a disability can come on there and just talk about whatever's on your mind. And you can post things on there that has to do with disabilities as well. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and if Mitch, maybe if you have that Facebook group or if we can get the link for that, I know I'm definitely interested in checking it out. So if somehow that can make it to the chat.
Okay.
Thumbs up. Thanks, Shine.
All right,
Eddie,
no
what
problem.
about you? I saw you unmuted yourself.
Oh yeah. For me, it was more or less like finding accessibility throughout like an apartment. Um, it's it's challenging, especially most apartments have carpet. So that's a number one no-no for a wheelchair. It's first of all, it's a mess. Because no matter what, you when you come in the house, whatever's out, whatever you came outside with, it's gonna be in this carpet, and usually the carpet's tan, so it's not even like gray or black or
Yeah,
like the whitest, it's white. Like you spills,
never
I
made sense.
drop cups out my cup holder, like it's
Yeah.
Jesus. That and then the bathroom not being accessible, but I figured out a way with that. Like April, when I first came home, I spent $15,000 for the bathroom. Not knowing, we remodeled the master bathroom and put like a rolling shower in there, and then I had like a shower chair that had wheels and all this extra stuff that I never needed. Um, but we didn't know, like, they went to the extreme at the hospital telling her stuff that she would need. Like they like, oh, I need, an elevator when you could just get a stair lift. They were saying like the most extreme stuff because there was people coming in there pitching and selling. Because even though I'm in money to someone, like I'm a medical, I got public safety something alarming in my ear. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. It turned off the air. Yeah. So yeah, like that was, I would say like, yeah, that was a lot. So, I just ended up meeting people through like peer mentors, which was like one of the biggest things I could have did was like get around other people who already was injured like me, who could like show me things that I didn't know. And then I was telling them stuff that they didn't know, which was I thought was surprising for me because I wasn't in the chair that long to be able to feel like I could tell other people what to do. But I promise you, from the day that I was in rehab, when I got out of ICU, that first week of them seeing my spirit, they were coming in my room asking me to go to other rooms to talk to other people with spinal cord injuries. And I'm like, what are you talking? I can't even move. I can't even get out this bed alone. And you want me to go cheer up somebody. But I was doing it. So I think I was born to like be the peer mentor.
Yeah.
So like I ended up meeting other people from the Rochester Spinal Chapter, which is a branch of United Spinal. They just call it Rochester Spinal. I met the owner of the company, and he was a big contractor throughout like the whole region. I think he even went all the way down the coast. He was a contractor and he built buildings. So he had a lot of money. And when he got injured, he was driving like a Harley or something and he crashed it. But he had a lot of friends with money. So they were like, when I came to United Spinal in Rochester, they had all this money. They were like giving me like smart drives, and they were like they had all type of money to like help you do certain things, and they had different events and stuff like that. So once I came there, I brought in the aspect of like gun violence because everybody that was on the board, they were just like either car accident or a diving accident or they were already born like that. No one was shot. So they didn't even talk about gun violence at all. It wasn't even a thing. So I started going to the city because I had connections throughout the city, and learning to navigate and figure out who else is in a wheelchair from a gunshot wound. Which, if you haven't like been shot, you in a wheelchair, you don't probably know anyone unless it's someone personally. Like you don't just you won't even recognize people gone. So like with me, when I got shot, I thought everybody knew. Like it's still people now, they be like, oh my God, you're in a wheelchair. I'm like, it's 7 years later, like where you been? So like I started meeting people that I knew previously that I just didn't see in years, like, just thinking people moved away or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I started meeting like old friends from like middle school that were in wheelchairs and stuff like that. And then we just started connecting and talking, and they were telling me like how they started driving. I wasn't driving yet, and I couldn't even fathom like driving. And they were like, "Yeah, He was like, "You ain't driving yet?" Trying to make. I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to drive." And I'm like, "Did you go get your license?" And because I'm straight by the book. I'm like, "Did you go get your license? Like, how did you got how much you pay for your hand control?" He's like, "I'm driving with a stick." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, like he was driving with a stick, like from the brake to the. So like, there's some people out here in these cars, and yeah. So, but yeah, like peer mentorship is like the second reason besides the gym that got me to my best levels, like going upwards towards my levels. Yeah, like Mitch changed everything.
And it sounds like everything that you described kind of built up to, because I know that you have a foundation. So do you feel comfortable sharing more about that real quick?
Yeah. My foundation is geared towards people who've been paralyzed from violence, just because when I started at Rochester Spinal, they didn't have a support group for people who've been paralyzed from gun violence, because it's totally different than a car accident, because your PTSD might be the car, and that might be just it when you get in a car and you're on the expressway. I'm sure probably that's a lot. But for me, it's all day, all night, all day, wherever you go. Church, even in church, I'm still to this day when I'm in church and I see people walking by, I'm looking. I shouldn't. That should be a place of rest and relaxation where you feel safe. But people do stuff in churches too, so I think that's another reason probably why. But you can't describe like how hard it is to find other people and like to support you, so you can support each other and like have different opportunities. Because I know like if you go to Christopher Reeve's Foundation, they'll have a list of all of these different grants you can get, and it'll go down the line. If you've been to football accidents, kids, they got stuff for athletes, they got stuff for women, they got stuff for HVAC, like they got stuff for like construction workers. Like I ended up getting a grant actually for a bed because I was in construction. They got different categories, but no gun violence stuff. Like no, they don't give grants for gun violence. You already don't get money for being shot. So like if you get in a car accident and you got insurance, you're probably gonna get some money. If you dive in and you're in the pool, I know Mitch, you're gonna stuff like they're gonna give you support. You're gonna have something, workers' comp, something to like hold you down. But like with gun violence, you don't get anything. You just like you get they give you like the victim services, you get the little 20,000. That's gone in a year. That's your first year living. I mean, after the injury, it's gone after that. You don't get anything else. So it's like you're supposed to live on this Social Security check. That's $1,350. Kids, grading kids, like
Just life.
Yeah, then your like bills.
Yeah.
I don't know what they, you know, I don't know what they were thinking, but
I don't
it,
know.
it definitely needs to be more support out here for gunshot victims of all, of just, people who've been paralyzed, not just, a shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here. Amen.
And not veterans that see like veterans that get shot, they get a lot of stuff. They get everything, like housing. They'll give you a house. They'll give you all this stuff. It's like, like we at the bottom of the totem pole. And not to be funny, as a Black man, you already marginalized, and then you
That's
add the
not-
wheelchair on top of that. It's like crushing you.
Multiply marginalized communities. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to add, sometimes it almost feels like when you have people ask you what happened and you have to say, I was shot, it's almost like people kind of give you that look like, what was you into, and it's
Right.
like,
Judging. Yeah.
yeah,
You're a
yeah.
gangbanger.
Why were you there? What were you doing? Well,
You and yeah, it's
victim blaming. Yeah.
Not trying to get shot, I can tell you that.
Didn't wake up that day asking me. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Didn't
No,
do
I
anything to
wasn't-
be able to get shot.
Yeah, and April, I'm glad that you brought up the point of the stigma around it, and it's just, something that hopefully things like this, conversations like this, we're looking to really break down and shed light on, on this. And so, one of the last thing that we're going to talk about, and actually Randy beat us to the punch. So sis, you're so in sync, and Eddie's kind of commented on it a little bit, but for the panelists, just talking about really support and the importance of support that you've received after injury. And I know Randy wants to hear more specifically about peer support, and mentors, but whatever support looked like for you and just the importance of that, post-injury, if anybody wants to comment.
Yeah, that's why I did that's why I was talking to peer mentor, because I read it. So that was me.
Yeah, thanks.
That was
Eddie.
intentional.
For me, well, support, I definitely had, again, I can say I was blessed, and I know everyone is not, so it's important to recognize that, not everybody has the family support that I know I've done some peer support counseling at Shepherd Center. I've done some peer support mentoring, I'm sorry, at Shepherd Center. And I had a peer support mentor when I was there, and that was a huge help. It did start to open my eyes that, my situation doesn't end with me just sitting in bed and sitting in a chair. So the peer support was huge, and being around it, I think is really important. I think Eddie was touching on it, I think everyone's touched on it, being around folks that are like you, to understand your experience, because even your friends and family, they get it to a point, and then they don't get it. And when they don't get it, they either disconnect, they get angry, they get frustrated, or they overcompensate. I still to this day am telling my mom, like, I got it. If I'm doing something, she want to take it out my hands. I got it. So you have to balance, how do you accept help from the people that are in your support system versus kind of pushing back and not, not being too dependent. As far as outside supports, I agree, it is a difficult situation. If you, for instance, I said I went back to work, and I went back to work maybe a little too soon. I was getting Social Security, and I forgot what else. But I lost all that when I went back to work because I was making too much. But the problem was I wasn't making enough to live off of with this injury. So it was kind of like I was in this gray area of forgotten people that like still need support and help financially and with other services, but I qualified for nothing. So I had to figure out basically a way to either make more money or, figure out something, rely on family and friends again. I think we ended up doing another fundraiser, but I can't keep fundraising every year off my friends and family, like that's just not going to be sustainable. But yeah, if you get back to work, that is a challenge, because any the benefits for you as a disabled person kind of hinge on you being under the poverty line, your income being below the poverty line. And it's a punishing system. It is a punishing system. So family and friends make a lot of difference and can help back up,
Mhm.
caregiving support is difficult. I'm not completely independent. I do still need some assistance with in terms of traveling. Times I've had to travel. I cannot travel alone. I have a service dog now. But and I'll just say this about friends. Someone told me in the beginning, like, you're gonna find out who your real friends are when you come out of the hospital.
Mm.
Everybody was visiting me. It was all, my room was a party room at Shepherd. It is at least 10 people seeing me as soon as I got done with therapy every day. But the friends changed when I got home. People changed. My relationships changed. And not everybody can cope with your needs and the pace you have to keep up that you need for you to be able to keep up. So you really do find you do lose friends. You do lose friends. Um, and people you love, I think I would say too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you highlighting again, yeah, just how the impact is not only just emotionally, mentally, physically and financially, but also socially, with people that you probably spent years cultivating those relationships and friendships with, only to feel like they're kind of being unraveled. So I appreciate you sharing that. Shine, did you want to comment on support, importance of peer support, how that's helped you?
Yeah, it's helped me out tremendously. The peer support, like I told you, I'm a mentor now. I work for the Shepherd Center and the Georgia RSVP and Christopher Reeve. So I feel like when I mentor other people that's paralyzed or had a brain injury or spinal cord injury, that helps heal me at the same time. So like I really get something out of that, and I look forward to mentoring people every day. Like it helps me. And then sometimes the young brothers will call me back in and inform me, like, "Hey, man, my legs start moving," or "I learned how to do my bowel program," or little stuff like that, and that just
Yeah.
puts a smile on my face. Yeah, so support system is very much needed when you have a traumatic injury in your life. If you don't have that support system, it's going to be rough, man.
Yeah.
Trust me, you need that support system.
Yeah. Takes a village, we say
Or
that.
if not, try to build you one.
Yeah.
That
And for you, I mean, you have a living evidence of it here today with your mom being on the call, and it's just so beautiful to see that support that you're getting from your moms.
I would,
my mom's the reason why she got me back strong again. This is her work.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah.
Eddie, what'd you say?
I was gonna say also, when I moved to Georgia, I didn't know I didn't know too many people like that. And I met Mitch at the gym at Lifetime, and he was doing yoga, and I'm like, "How you get on the ground?" He was like, "Oh, they're picking me up, and they picked me up, and they." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he's like, "Yeah, they'll get you." So I ended up coming to Heated Yoga one night, and it was so different. And I was like, I got on the ground, I didn't have to worry about like how I'm gonna get up. So I never really get on the floor because there's no point. Like it's no point. But that was a good feeling. And then me and Mitch started talking, and he started telling me what he did, and then like he introduced me to like learning how to have sex, which was the third biggest thing of my life.
Yeah.
so so like everything came from a peer mentor, if you just go throughout my journey, the steps came from a peer mentor. Like even if they weren't labeled a peer mentor, they were mentoring you, even though they were just it's just you meeting someone and you guys conversating, but they also mentoring you. They just probably don't know it. So you can get a lot of people who can inspire you without trying to inspire you. We do it every day, all of us. April, Shine, we do it just entering the room.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so when he was telling me all this stuff, the way he was like giving me these websites, and I'm like why no one told me this? Why you don't tell you this at the hospital? Why I have to find this out from another person in a wheelchair? Do the doctors not know like the most important information to give you? You know, they just give you like the worst information, the worst, like they don't want you to have. I don't want to say they don't want you to have hope, but they just don't want you to pinpoint it back to them to say, "We told you that you were going to walk again." No, you're not. Like, no, 3%. You know, they give you the worst. They give you something like when you get outside, you can be like, "Okay, I got 3%. Let's see what we can do with it." You know, I don't, I never held anything the doctor said to like my life as far as like walking or if I'm gonna walk or not walk. It don't really matter what they say. It's not on us. I got shot in I got shot in the aorta. I shouldn't even live 3 minutes. So once the doctor told me that, I was like, everything was looking up for me. I never been depressed. Thank God. Never sunk into like depression. I don't even have that spirit to be down too long.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if something wrong with me, or I don't really cry or anything like that. Once in a while, I cry. I lost a brother to a fentanyl overdose, so that made me cry more than the wheelchair, honestly. But peer mentor, peer mentor got me here. It got me in the doors to meeting all these powerful and amazing people. It all started from just talking and saying, "Come on," and Mitch asking me to come be on the board, and then me just lollygagging for 6 months, and then just one day I went to church, and then I got God telling me like, "I need you to be in a wheelchair." Like I didn't like build you up. I didn't build you back up so you could be your old self. Like your old self is finished. And I just kept trying to be the old Eddie, like anybody would. And then I just had to just be like, you know what? I'ma just, all right. Like he just like just go be in the wheelchair. I need you to use the wheelchair for what I need you to use it for. And the next day I called Mitch. I told him I'm gonna come be on the board. I'll be the vice president. The week after that, I met Jasmine, Dr. Jasmine Clark, and then everything just went in a year. It just went. I met Dr. Randy. I'm not supposed to be around these people if you're just going off of the normal way to meet colleagues like these statues of people. That's why you just like I just know it's not me. I just know that I'm on the right path. I know I'm doing what I'm actually my purpose is because it's so easy. When you're doing it your way, it's hard. It's gonna be hard. Always gonna be hard if you're just trying to figure it out on your own. It don't work that way. It don't work. It work when you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. You will know because it's so easy. So like peer mentoring, it's easy for me. I know it's easy for Shine because I see him all the time interacting with people. That's his purpose, that's for him. All of us in a wheelchair are not supposed to be peer mentors. Some people are supposed to be something else. Everybody has their own special talents and gifts, and we just have to find it. But we need more funding. We need more support from hospitals and programs to highlight us, just us. And it's okay. Like it's okay to not mix us in with people who have spinal cord injuries from a car accident, like because they have their own thing. Like let them have their own, we should have our own thing too. We don't. We kind of gotta nibble off here and nibble off a little bit of here. And hopefully someone we'll meet somebody that can change our lives. But you know how hard that is to do in life.
I mean, piggybacking off what you're saying, Eddie, it takes a special kind of person to want to be in a role where you serve other people. And it can be really challenging and demanding because you're exposing yourself to other people's,
issues.
And stuff, and it's a lot to take on, so it should be compensated because you're helping carry someone's needs for a while, and that's a really tough job. So here, I agree. And I think at this point, Mitch wants us to see if there's any other questions or curiosities for any of the panelists. And again, silent round of applause for the amazing panelists that we have.
Mine is not silent.
Okay, well, I know we're all on mute, so like I just didn't want everyone, but
Okay.
yeah.
You could use the thing to raise your hand or put a question in the chat if you want us to read it to the folks there. So, and April, I'm coming for you next to be a board member for United Spinal. I'm putting you on the spot. Any questions, any more questions for our generous panel members? This is great seeing your faces come on.
Hi, this is Abigail. I had a question for our panelist. I think it was April who mentioned the challenges with being in a wheelchair but wanting to go back to work and possibly just running the risk of maybe losing any disability income you were receiving. I know that there's all different states have buy-in programs to try to help with that. Of course, the rates don't always meet what, account for inflation or, things like that. But I'm just curious if you benefit from that program or if you found that helpful at all, or if you're not benefiting from it, or if there is a reason. Just curious how those types of state programs are being utilized.
I'm not familiar with that. I know that I spent a lot of time asking and researching what additional support may have been available. What I learned was well, as far as the Social Security, they do give you a grace period. So when you return to work, you get, I think, a year, or it's either 12 or 18 months where the benefits continue. Like for instance, so that in the event that you don't maintain the employment, or the employment is not successful, that you don't have to start over with applying for your benefits, they just continue. But once that grace period is over, you're sort of kind of on your own. I know that Georgia, I'm not sure what programs are available in Georgia. I mean, like I said, I've gone through reaching out to state-backed programs, nonprofit programs. Again, most of them are based on a financial need as well as the disability, but there's very few that I found that I qualify for. So I'm not, if there is something else out there, I am all ears and ready to try it. But I've had so much heartbreak trying things and just crying on the phone to customer service because they told me no one more time.
Thank you. There's a hand up from Kelly.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kelly Simoneau, and I was actually going to touch on this when I talk later, but but to Abigail's question can jump in now. I'm a lawyer. I have a spinal cord injury, but I'm also a lawyer, and I help people kind of navigate a lot of this. Georgia there's only about 4 or 5 states in the country. My law firm's based in the District of Columbia, and we're one of the jurisdictions that have no Medicaid buy-in program. As a crazy thing, but Georgia does. Georgia has the Georgia Medicaid for Workers with Disabilities program. But I will say not every Medicaid buy-in program is created equally. And the thing that we see that becomes such a big issue is basic human rights issues. Whereas in order to really access these programs, you can't be married because that your spouse's income counts as income, or assets of your partner may end up being assets for you. And so it becomes very restricted. Georgia is a program that has asset and income limits. So you can work, but you can only continue to work to a certain extent, maybe not to your full capacity, or you're working, but will never get the benefit to marry the person you love, ever get a raise. So there is, I think the Medicaid buy-in program is important because it allows people the ability to maintain working. Where we see this come into play most specifically is for high-level quadriplegics who require caregiving, because Medicaid is the program that will pay for caregiving. If you are on a traditional private health insurance plan, you do not get the benefit of caregiving services. And so when that cost is, upwards of $300,000 a year, you really have to stay on Medicaid. I'm happy to share any additional information related to Georgia Medicaid for workers with disabilities with anyone, or if you know someone who may want to be counseled about the Medicaid buy-in program in Georgia, I have some resources there too. And then the second part of it, I would say, is the Ticket to Work program is a federally mandated program that April was just talking about, that allows individuals a certain amount of time to get back working without your government benefits being in jeopardy. The goal is that a person can go back to a full and fulfilling work life. But in case that is not manageable based on secondary complications, transportation issues, a variety of circumstances, it allows a period of time for people to get back to work where they know that their government benefits are protected. I will also say there are, for no cost, programs out there that help navigate the whole Ticket to Work program for individuals with spinal cord injuries. It can be very complicated. There's a lot of different, little provisions and loopholes and things that really, it would be very hard to on your own really figure it all out. So again, like I know of some programs where individuals can have one-on-one counseling, have that one-on-one support to say, if you want to return to work, let's be clear, it's very possible to return to work after a spinal cord injury, but also let's give you the right resources. Someone, has probably paved an accessible path for us. So let's get connected into those resources so that people don't feel so overwhelmed by what can be a very complicated process. Sorry, thank you.
I do want to say that made me think, Kelly, that's actually great information I probably need to get access to. But I was able, when I was returning to work, I worked with Shepherd Center. They had I forget what her name was, a benefits navigator or something like that was her title. But she worked with me. She came to my job. She helped to negotiate my accommodations and what I would need in terms of assistive technology, space, bathroom access. They did not have handicap accessible buttons at the doors that I needed to get in through. They were secure doors because the DA's office obviously has to be secure. So they did all of those things. We went through the whole building. They didn't put buttons everywhere I needed them, but for most of it they did. I also didn't talk about using Georgia Vocational Rehab, and I did use that to help me with my vehicle. I bought a van on my own. I wish I had found out about GVRA before I even bought the van, but I bought a van on my own, but so it had a ramp. It was wheelchair accessible, but it was not drivable for me. But Georgia Vocational Rehab paid for the driving assistant equipment because I was working. So if you're either attempting to return to work or working, then Georgia Vocational Rehab can provide assistance. And now I'm at a point where I need a new van. So I'm working with them again to assist me with getting a new van. They can be slow, so you have to stick with it, but they do come through, and it was a huge benefit because those accessible vehicles are tremendously expensive. Unless you just roll around bowling, you cannot do that on your own. So those two things helped me tremendously in terms of getting my independence back as well. If it wasn't for that Shepherd support service. So I would definitely say navigating, going back to work, navigating benefits, all of these things are not something I would advise anybody in a wheelchair to do on their own, especially if you haven't been injured that long and you have not done it before. If you've done it before, maybe you can handle it. But even then, I would say it's good to have that extra advocate in the room.
Thank you all. There is just one comment in the chat from Heather Hallett. Hi, Heather. She says she just wants to thank to the panelists for sharing their stories. Amazing perseverance from all of them. You are all inspirations. And now Bonnie says, so grateful in witness of the struggle and courage of your comeback journeys. Yeah, these are folks that I happen to recruit that are, you know, that I meet out and about, and members of our chapter that are really doing well. Before we move to a little interview of a family member, I just want to acknowledge Dana Lee Harp here in the group, because she's our peer mentor coordinator for the United Spinal Association. So we have 15 people in total, including myself and Eddie, that are trained peer mentors. And Dana, volunteers, and she takes in the requests and tries to match them appropriately. We get in-person requests, and we also get requests through the United Spinal Association from folks virtually who are in other states and don't have peer support near them. So